Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. This is the Postmortem for Game 26, featuring Rockstar Ghosts versus Mad Scientist Cats. I had Rockstar Ghosts winning this matchup, and they did, winning in 2 games. They won the first game by a score of 15-4, which is easily the biggest blowout that we've had so far, and something that I consider to be my Rockstar Ghost masterpiece. Now, I feel bad for Turing Jedi because he was put in a difficult spot. Mad Scientist Cats, there are some things that they can do against Rockstar Ghosts, but overall, it's not a very good matchup on paper. As far as the game plan, I had an absolute idea of what I wanted to do in this game, but I couldn't have scripted it any better if I tried. It seemed like they hit every note, no pun intended, that they were trying to, and I got to do the one thing I really wanted to do, which was play Make Contact on Queen Fluffy. I loved the idea of being able to steal one of his minions and immediately using it to steal another minion to swing a base, and I ended up being able to do that in order to solo a base. This game is absurd because it only had 3 bases broken, and it was a very small amount of turns. There was a 4 that was broken, a 6 that was broken, a 4 that was broken, and Shady Deal. So the 2 bases are going to be 8 plus 6 for 14, Shady Deal making it 15. I've come to really like Haunted House with Rockstar Ghosts if I can see the Door to the Beyond there. The reason is because the Groupies are perfect for whittling your hand down in order to trigger Door to the Beyond. And I was in a position where it was perfect because I could spirit him if he wasn't going to be on the base, if he was going to be on the base, and if he wasn't, I could kill someone else. The extreme flexibility about the Groupies, in case this hasn't come up in a video that you've heard, is that Groupies are actually bankable. And some people might be surprised by that because it doesn't seem like it seems like it's referring to a specific minion, but it's not. It's referring to a classification of minions called Groupie, and there are multiple candidates that can satisfy that. Now, in this particular case, you can choose whether to play them immediately or whether to bank them. And I chose to play them immediately in order to bypass the discarding. That way I can play all my Groupies, then discard whatever is left over, and be able to bring out the Creampuff Man. I do like using Creampuff Man to break a base when I need to do it, but I prefer not to. I will do it, and I have done it. In this particular case, being able to not need Creampuff Man is absolutely fantastic. As I mentioned yesterday, having a Titan that adds power is an extreme advantage. Where the Creampuff Man differs is that you have to be very careful about your hand size because you may accidentally play yourself out of it mattering. And this almost happened, actually, in that game. At one point, because of the insane card draw, I actually drew enough cards that I could possibly not have any presence on the base when it scores, if he were to do a certain number of things, like stealing my minion that's there. But when you can start throttling your cards rapidly, bringing them back up and bringing them back down, having the Creampuff Man is absolutely essential for this team to be as perfect as they can be. Classic Rocker, fantastic. I can play the Creampuff Man, I can use Classic Rocker to draw a card and recur a card from my discard pile. What I love about this team is the versatility of plays that I have with that. In this particular case, I can Rock of Love from the discard pile after I use Reunion Tour. So I Rock of Love to start the game to get a bunch of Groupies. I can use Reunion Tour to put them back in, then ditch any card that I want and get 3 more Groupies back. I'm definitely seeding a big power play on my next turn. But what am I going to do with it? It's really crazy that on a base where he has 12 or more power and an action that makes all my minions have -1, that I could still overtake that with less than a full hand. That's what Rockstar Ghosts can do when they get going. So is there anything that Mad Scientist Cats can do about this? Yes, it's really going to depend on the draw order. Unfortunately, their biggest mitigation is also going to work in the Rockstar Ghosts' favor. Spirit is incredibly powerful. It's weird that it thinks that it's powerful because it requires such a cost in order to destroy a minion. But destroying a minion is very powerful, but the bigger greatness is that it helps you thin your hand size in order to activate your ghost benefits. It can mean activating Door to the Beyond. It can mean bringing out the Creampuff Man. It can mean activating Hauntings. There's a number of ways that you can do it. In this particular case, it's good and bad that the Mad Scientist Kitty Cats have invulnerable minions. with Uber Serum or Hang In There, they could potentially have a minion who survives the destruction. And in Uber Serum's case, that's notable because you need to watch out for the case where you use the opportunity to destroy them as a reason to thin your hand. If you notice, you may discard cards from your hand to destroy it. So the discard happens first, not the destruction. If the destruction were to fail, you would have kept discarding the cards, but you keep the power on the base. And in some cases, that could actually be significant because it means you could use that power in order to overtake someone. That can mean that you don't have to use the Creampuff Man. You can keep the Creampuff Man in play on another base. That could be really big. The reason why it's so important to me to not need the Creampuff Man is because there's no guarantee that he's going to come out. On the occasions where I empty my hand and use Creampuff Man, you'd be surprised how often I will draw 2 actions, and there are 2 cards that I don't necessarily want to use right now. That not only means I can't play Creampuff Man, but it also means that I've created an opportunity because I'm going to be passing my turn and not doing anything. That's something that the Mad Scientist Kitty Cats can actually take advantage of. They have extra plays. That works out really well. If you're going to beat Rockstar Ghosts, you have to play fast, but you also have to play smart. You have to watch out for Spirit. You have to watch out for Make Contact. But you also know that those cards mean less when I have more minions on the field. If I have Make Contact out, if I have only 1 minion out, that could be Make Contact bait. If I have multiple minions out, then it's going to be harder because I have to take care of multiple minions at the same time with Rockstar Ghosts. And with Spirit, there's only so many cards that I have in my hand to do that. And even if I'm going to remove multiple minions at the same time, it's going to be very expensive because it's going to cost a Ghostly Arrival. Now with the monster and the extra plays of that, plus the extra plays of the Kitty Cats, that's where things can turn around. Also, they have the ability to attack and potentially shut down their engine because Classic Rocker and Monarch, they're so crucial with their talent-based card draw, but they need to stay in play to provide long-term value, and that's a weakness that the Kitty Cats can exploit. I took a risk in Game 1. I felt like he would need the perfect combination of cards in order to attack my Classic Rocker. He might have it. In this case, he didn't, and I was able to reap a lot of rewards because he didn't. But let's say he had. Suppose he had Whiskers and Cat's Paw. He could instantly take control of my minion and destroy it for an extra action. Of course, before he'd do that, he'd activate the talent to get another card. If they can get their card draw engine going, then they have more of a chance. I don't think it's that good of a chance, but they can make a lot of plays happen. A lot of people put emphasis on the Uber play that they have, which can break multiple bases simultaneously. Yes, that can be great. Rockstar Ghosts, they can't really do that. They can do many things, but breaking multiple bases in the same turn, that's pretty hard for them to do. It would generally require Creampuff Man, Ghostly Arrival, and the perfect collection of cards to attack 2 bases at once. Probably a Groupie Dump on one and Haunting and Creampuff Man on another. I would definitely not let that happen if I were playing against Rockstar Ghosts. But if Cats could set that up, that could be interesting because then they could take 2 wins, and that could be enough to offset the fact that they can solo score. If they use multiple minions, it makes it harder for the Ghost Rockstars to solo a base because it means they have to remove multiple minions. The story of Game 1 was that they couldn't do that, and that's why there were 3 total bases, 2 of which were scored solo, just because I can hold on to my cards, I can kill you, you don't know which base I'm going to attack, and I have so many ways of circumventing you, combining with the fact that I'm using the Kitty Cat sense against them, that it becomes really difficult. I feel bad for Mad Scientist Cats because I do really like them, but I am glad that they got a lot of exposure in this tournament. When I was doing their team video, I mentioned that they were one of the teams that was probably going to be overlooked because it's a combination people wouldn't have thought of, despite being in the game for so long. Monster Smash came out in Expansion 6, and Pretty Pretty came out in Expansion 7. That's a very long time ago. We're on Expansion 17 with Culture Shock. So we're talking about more than half the lifetime of the game. That combo's been in there. And a lot of people bet on them to go far. I also think that the story of them isn't really over because matchup matters immensely. They were not positioned well to face this team. They're just simply too fast and too much zero to breakpoint potential. But I do wonder what it would have been like if Changerbot Werewolves had advanced, because I actually do think that they could wreak a decent amount of havoc against Changerbot Werewolves. Like Rockstar Ghost, Changerbot Werewolves are very fast, but they go about it in a different way. They typically require a minion in play in order to set up. And when we're talking about the possibility that that could have happened among the group, we're talking about Bruiser and the fact that you couldn't really play you could not really play your Bruisers until they were terminal plays. If you did, what I would do is I would basically steal it with Muffin, tap it in order to make it a 4, and that means it can be destroyed, and then catfight it. I could absolutely turn things around, stealing your minions from my advantage. I really wonder what would have happened if those two teams had faced. Would Mad Scientist Kitty Cats have had a chance to go to the Final Four? That would be really interesting. How would they go against Itty Critter Grims? I guess unfortunately we won't know for a while. If we ever did something like more Elseworlds games where we talk about what would have happened had one team advanced versus another, that would definitely be one of the things that I would be interested in revisiting. Unfortunately, they are going home. Rockstar Ghosts are going to the Final Four, where they'll face Itty Critter Grims. So my number 1 seed, the number 1 overall, is facing my number 2 seed, the number 4 overall. That's going to be an incredibly exciting matchup. 2 powerful teams, 2 teams with zero to breakpoint strategies. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. That's it for the Postmortem for Game 26. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's shut it down.